Good morning. We welcome you to the Legal Breeze. Today, we would like to discuss a very highly marginalized and neglected segment of society. They are almost treated as untouchable and highly stigmatized. It is very unfortunate that it shall not be. Who are these people? They are not transgender, but they are affected by a disease. They are called HIV affected people. So we would like to discuss about their rights and duties, and not only that, associated with the process of treatment, rehabilitation and other things, including health professionals, their rights, obligations and duties. The relatives of the HIV affected persons, including their family members, are concerned about the societal obligations and all these things that will be discussed in this particular program. It is very unfortunate that HIV is a life-threatening disease. It simply retains the immune system of the human body, thereby causes a severe threat to the survival of the human being or the humanity. This problem was at peak in the years 2000 and 2001. Therefore, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution. Since then, it has become a grave concern for the international community. It called for the member to take appropriate action, including the provision of treatment, care, and protection for these HIV-affected persons. 2001 is a watershed in the history of human rights aspects relating to intellectual property, particularly right to health and intellectual rights, the right to access medicine, the Doha Declaration on Trips and Public Health, which was also adopted in the same year 2001. Remember, India is a party to both of the above stated instruments. India supported this resolution and voted in favor, and India also strongly supported this Doha Declaration on Trips and Public Health. The Doha Declaration on Trips and Public Health has been incorporated in the Indian Patent Act at least by 2005 by inserting necessary sections such as 92A, 92B and 92C in the Indian Patent Act 1970. Since India is a greater leader in generic pharmaceuticals, we have been given license to export medicine, particularly antiviral therapy ART as they call it. The treatment products have been exported to South Africa because South Africa is the champion of HIV rights. Their constitution itself guarantees the right against discrimination against HIV person in their equality clauses. Unlike ours, there is a specific guarantee in their equality clause. However, India has not put all those things into law. This is very unfortunate. Again, one should remember that in 2001, the Nazi Foundation filed a lawsuit in Delhi High Court. The judgment came way back in 2009 on the two-member division bench headed by A.P. Shah. It is called the celebrated judgment. Today, it is paving the way for transgender rights. But the grounds on which this section 377 was attacked is a violation of HIV declaration, and it prevents people of the same sex from entering into LGBT relationship. They cannot have access to HIV treatment because they will be penalized or arrested on mere suspicions, which is why they have raised the argument that this poses a severe threat to all the humanity. Therefore, this section has to be struck down. However, later on, it was reversed. This is not subject matter of our current discussion, but to some extent, this litigation holds a good one. So, the year 2001 marked three important events. So, one is the Nazi Foundation, the UN General Assembly Resolution, and the Doha Declaration on Trips and Public Health. India has taken almost more than a decade. Only in 2006 did the Parliament pass legislation on the rights of HIV person. We need to go through a certain important definition such as what is HIV, AIDS, discrimination, its significant risk, what is the significant risk that the body fluid can transmit HIV, health workers, universal protection, reasonable accommodation, etc. These are some of the important definitions under the Act. Further, HIV affected person, HIV affected child, HIV information, all these things are also defined under the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Act 2017. The affected person is referred to as a protected person, that is, any person who has been infected by HIV is known as the protected person. It may be a child or an elderly person or a woman or whomsoever. Now, there are certain rights guaranteed under this Act. So, one is They have been guaranteed the right against discrimination. Nobody should discriminate against them. That is, whether it is in job or public place, private place, recreation activities, or all other things. If they are discriminated against on the basis of HIV itself, that is a punishable offence under this act. Right to work is also guaranteed. The owners are also asked to file certain reports, including the reasonable accommodation, other reports concerning the HIV persons, and universal precautionary measures for all these things. Protective measures include these things. Non-compliance with these is also a punishable offence under this act. It guarantees treatment facilities for HIV affected people. It includes pre-test and post-test counselings where the information shall be disclosed, what information shall be disclosed and what shall not be disclosed. All these things have been dealt with under this act. For example, if a male is an HIV affected person and he is living with a partner or a married person, the word partner is very important term. Later on, it was adopted even in the Medical Termination of Pregnancy MTP Act of 1971 and other acts. So, if the doctor feels that the HIV affected male person may not disclose the information to the other spouse and to the close relatives, then he is duty bound to communicate it, so as to protect women from HIV infection. Whereas, if a woman is affected by HIV and the doctor feels that disclosure of the information to a spouse may lead to violence, segregation or rejection against the women, then the act empowers the doctor not to disclose it, and the doctors will not held liable and health workers will not be made liable for this thing. There is no civil or criminal liability attached to the health workers in dealing with the treatment. Above all, the Act also provides certain communication educational programs. They explain that HIV person have to be trained to adopt litigation measures, whereas preventive measures. So, when the measures are failing, say for example, the doctor are advising to use the condoms between HIV affected persons and other persons. When they have been having intercourse, if the condom fail, the doctor cannot be held liable, and the affected person is not liable. That is an immunity granted by this particular statutory concern. To some extent, there is an illustration that recognizes that even homosexuals, when they get into all those things, they have no liability attached to them. Apart from that, the Act also recognizes the right to property, right to guardianship, the right to testimony, and all these things for HIV affected persons. If there is no person available in the home, if there is a minor child or a person who has completed 18 years, in that case, even the minor can also be a guardian for the purpose of the Act. He or she can perform all the rights and liabilities of a guardian, because when they are affected by HIV, their parents would have been incapacitated or died. So whenever there is a research or treatment relating to this HIV, it should be undertaken by the health professionals only with their prior informed consent. That's very, very important. Of course, these sorts of professional things shall be regulated by ACMR, but the Act itself prescribes them. The Act further clearly uses the term data protection measures relating to the rights of HIV persons, information and all the things. It shall be kept with due precautions. All the records should be pseudonymized, and even the courts shall not use their personal names. Identities shall not be disclosed. All these things have been guaranteed under this Act. So this is very comprehensive piece of legislation. In the institutional mechanism, there is something called State AIDS Control Society. Then there is a grievance officer, health workers and ombudsman. These are the institutions mechanism. So whenever there is a problem, this person can approach the ombudsman to redress his grievance, and in emergency cases, the decision have to be given within 24 hours by the ombudsman. The ombudsman is the duty bound to send the report to the state government, and the state government has to forward the same to the central government. The statistical collection and other things are also mandated under this Act. The Act has certain relationship with the Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, such as the reasonable accommodation and universal protection measures, which are known as universal design in the later Act. It is also related to the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. Whenever a child is affected by HIV, they can take shelter or receive assistance from the Child Welfare Committee (CWC) functioning under the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. Though the act has been very well dealt with, it is very a comprehensive one, but much needs to be done. Say for example that it promises finance, banking and insurance, all these things subject to certain exceptions. We don't know whether they are covered under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, but there is a one good thing that the HIV affected person are entitled to get food allowance and food grains under the National Food Security Act 2013 under and the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana scheme recently framed by this government. So, we hope that this information is very useful and it promotes the human rights of HIV person, health workers and family members of HIV persons. Society has a duty not to discriminate against them and they shall not make any hateful speeches against them. If anyone promotes hatred against HIV affected persons, it is strictly punishable under this act. Thank you.